Hello, everybody. Good evening. I am here alone at the moment because my guest, Quincy, has some laptop issues. So while we're waiting for him, let me take care of the housekeeping. Usual housekeeping. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, I hope you will consider subscribing if you like to have content about education, what's going on in education lately, especially the crisis in education that we're facing. Consider subscribing to the channel, hit the bell. You'll know when I make new videos. I also have a locals community at thereasonwelearn.locals.com. I would love it if you would join us over there. We have 2 Zoom calls a week where we talk about all kinds of educational issues, or if you are currently looking for ideas for how to supplement your child's education, or if you're trying to leave the school system and homeschool, we talk about ideas there as well. So my guest tonight is Quincy Bingham. He was my first ever live interview on this channel. When I started the channel about a year ago, I wasn't even envisioning doing live interviews at all. I was just talking to the camera about education in America and what I thought was wrong with it. And while I was busy doing that and learning about things like critical race theory and so forth, I was doing a lot of reading, especially blog articles by people living out in the world and coming face to face with issues like critical race theory, etc. And I discovered an article by Quincy about his own discovery of critical race theory in real life, like living as a man and working in Chicago, but having grown up in Jackson, Mississippi, and then, moving to the big city and just realizing like, wait a minute, they're not kidding. Like, he thought maybe it was just sort of an idea that people were floating around and didn't take it too terribly seriously. But then he realized this is real and they mean to teach this to kids. He doesn't have kids of his own, but he realized this was going to be in schools. He didn't like it. He didn't like the messaging. And I became very curious. How did he arrive at these ideas? What made him him? So we had an interview and you can find that on this channel and it's somewhere down in months ago. And then and there's even a piece called The Voices of Reason, and he's my first voice of reason, I believe, um, talking about it. And then I decided let's check back in with him because he recently wrote another article and it's excellent. And then the title of the article is the same as the title of the show, Why This Black Man Doesn't Buy into Oppression Narratives. So I thought we better hear from Quincy again. I'm still waiting for him to get his machine up and going. But what I'll do is I will share the screen, and then when he gets here, we can even talk about it. So let me share this. Sorry about this, you guys. It happens sometimes. People have technical difficulties. So let's get his article. All right. So here's his article. He says prevailing narratives more oftentimes than not collide with reality, real world experiences, and miseducation or learning and growth outside of the failing education system. So even though he does not have children of his own, he's very concerned yet. He is very concerned about what's going on in education because I think we've figured this out by now. It affects all of us. What kids are learning in school, they then bring into the workplace, right? Some of those workplaces, while they might not be our workplace, are workplaces that affect us, like the doctor's office or possibly I don't know, the school again, and now it's our kid there. So it's a pretty big deal. I hope he gets here soon. And so he this piece is rather long, as you can see, but he also talks about him growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, and that gives him a particular perspective, which is different from what a lot of people have, because as you may know, Jehovah's Witnesses were persecuted also in the Holocaust. And so he has that perspective to bring to this as well. What I think I'm going to do, since we're waiting, is see if you guys have any questions in the chat for me about anything, just while we're waiting, or if you have some questions you'd like me to ask him, because it is kind of a golden opportunity to ask somebody who, kind of lives it every day. They're living the expectations that people have on, a Black man in American society. And they're, you know, being told what to think in ways that even I'm not, right? We saw what happened to Nicki Minaj recently. Okay. Now she's famous, but in his original piece, Quincy talked about how that's happened to him. It's happened to him. Like, how can you think this? Or, just the dating world is fraught with problems. So do you guys have any specific questions that you want me to ask him when he gets here? Or any questions for me in general? Any thoughts? Anything's going on? What brought you to the show today? When you saw the title, I'm curious. What made you think, okay, I want to hear this? Anything in particular? Anybody? Nobody wants to type a question. um, all right. He said he had to reboot his machine, so he should be here very, very soon. But yes, Paula, you're right. The workplace, politics, Congress, everywhere. Everywhere. It's everywhere. We're told what to think, regardless of who we are. But it is, as Nicki Minaj learned, it's especially true if you step out of line when you are Black in America. That's just what we're observing right now. And let's see. He says, I don't even know how to ask. Phil says, I don't even know how to ask questions like that. What was his relationship with his parents? And did it help him growing up? Oh, that is an excellent question. We will talk to him about that. And but I remember from the last show, he said that his mom was the biggest influence in his life, and his mother placed a very high value on education. Growing up in Mississippi, he said, interestingly enough, that it was a very diverse group of kids in his school. So he didn't have the sense of, like that racism was a big thing. I mean, he knew about it, but it wasn't like a thing they thought about or talked about all the time. And also, um, he was he was really interested in learning about people he would like to become. So there were groups of kids like in any other neighborhood. There were the kids who didn't care about school. There were the kids who did care about school. The students, and then there were kids who dropped out and so forth. But his mom was really like, you're going to read and you're going to go to school, and that was a good influence for him. Although I think he grew up without his dad, so she was really strong in that respect. But also, he said when he got a little bit older, maybe teen years, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong when he gets here, he wanted to know, how did people get rich? Like, or how did people succeed? How are the successful people successful? So he decided, I'll read what they write. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read the books by people like Thomas Sowell. I'm going to read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm going to read the books by people who were successful. How did they get there? Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, etc. And he just decided that's what he was going to do. He's in marketing now. He's also really interested in space. He's got a website, I believe, that focuses on space. He's like super into that kind of thing. So if you guys have questions about space, you can ask him. He had to reboot the computer, he said. So that's probably what's taking so long. Let's see. Did he feel like he was held back by the schools, or did he have good teachers? That's a great question. We'll definitely ask him that, because I don't remember his exact answer from the last interview. I think my impression was that he thought he had an okay education, but a lot of what he got out of education was because of his mom and pushing him. So, and let's see. Paula says, I'm going to pull these up so you guys can see these questions too. My granddaughters are mixed, so I worry about how they will react to all this. Kindergarten and 7th grade. Part of the family is pro BLM and the rest is conservative. That is really interesting. I would love to get his take on that as well. Tough for me to answer, because I can only answer as an educator, as a teacher. I think one of the problems with teaching all this racial essentialism, like in the school, if they're going to get it, the BLM is going to exist outside the school, and it might pick it up from the news and so forth. But when they reinforce this junk in the school, I think it's very confusing for the kids, because they spend most of their time at school and they place a lot of faith in like what the teacher says, right? And so I think I think it could be really sort of destabilizing for them to especially if you're talking about kindergarten, to try to have these conflicting messages, and especially if it's then within the family also. I think it's too much too soon when they're that young. Let's see, what do we got here? I'm hoping to hear how he deals with those who just know that systemic racism is the root of all bad things happening to Black people. Oh, yes, I'm sure he'll have some things to say about that. Um, and I'm telling him I'm running out of stuff. Quincy, get here. Okay. Then it says, Phil says, I read the same books. Does he feel like school ignored important things? I can tell you that I know he does think that he had to teach himself these things because this was not covered in school. Don't know if he was cognizant of like my education in school was, you know, bad or, missing this. And, I don't know that he knew at the time, but here he is. We'll ask him. All right. Hello. We have so
Yeah.
many awesome questions for you already. I got to almost scroll back. So, hi, Quizzy. How are you? Welcome.
How are you?
I'm good. Welcome back.
It's been a long time.
I know. You got your space shirt on. I was
Oh yeah, the Solar
going into
Republic shirt.
space.
Yes, it's Solar Republic, my company. Um, it's a car game and a lot of other space. I would say like space products. There's a card game. There's a lot of T-shirts. There's some mugs and that kind of thing.
Great.
Sold in a few planetariums and museums. We have some items in the Museum of Flight in Seattle, and I'm looking to. My next stop is Michigan State's planetarium. So
Cool.
shipping them out some products in the next week or so. So it's
Awesome. All right. Well,
exciting.
we'll get a link from you and we'll put it up so that people can like buy the stuff. So here's how I introduced you in the time span that you were busy getting your laptop up. Okay. I explained that you were my first ever guest. I explained that you wrote a blog piece long ago about CRT and kind of like realizing that they're not kidding. Like this is real. This
Yeah,
thing that they're talking about, right?
they are.
And then that you challenged it and you questioned it and thought, this didn't really jive with my real life and so forth. Talked a little bit about your background growing up in Mississippi, how it was pretty diverse, how your mom was really influential in your education, how you read all those great books and became, kind of who you are today. And so I told people, let's put some questions up that we can ask him before he gets here. And so I kind of covered, I think, the relationship with your mom, how I got that right? She was very influential in making sure you got an education, right? She was pro education. Is that
Hmm.
accurate? Okay.
Yes, yes.
And then, so this question came up. Um, did you feel like you were held back at all by schools or did you have good teachers at the time?
Oh, that's a good question. Did I feel like I was held back? No, I don't feel like I was held back at all, actually. Um, well, in middle school, elementary was great. Actually, my elementary school was a magnet school in Jackson, Mississippi. It was extremely progressive. If that's means the same thing nowadays.
Right.
Um, we had different races in one classroom. It was very, very multicultural. As far as middle school, no, that didn't. It was fun, I guess, from a certain standpoint. High school, you could say that a lot. I would say half the classes weren't that interesting because it was a high school in the inner city.
Right.
But as far as holding me back, no, it was all fun and games for me. At least I made the best out of it.
Okay. And then I did reference your new article. I showed them the why this black man doesn't buy into oppression narratives, and I wanted to talk about this piece
All right.
because I think it's really interesting. I mean, there's a lot in here, and um, one of the ideas that I did want to talk about, and then I'll get to some other questions as well. So, guys, I'm not ignoring your questions. We're going to pull them in as they relate. But you referenced the concept of people sort of on this the race narratives that are going around, the
Mhm.
prevailing narratives
Yes.
telling you like what you're supposed to think, how you're supposed to feel. You reference like Major Williams, who was a black candidate for governor, and saying that he was, not married to somebody outside his race, and you thought that made him more accessible. And then it made you think about, well, hang on a second. I think I realize why people, people like you, people like Candace Owens, people like Larry Elder, why are so like, hated, why people are so angry. And you said, because you see yourself as an equal.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you made that point. I'm going to read this. This was really, you said, at that moment, I had a realization that took me back to a tweet I read some time back. The tweet was amazingly simple, but dramatically profound. And then it's funny you say, don't get triggered that it's Candace Owens, right? And
Yeah.
it says, white liberals hate black conservatives because we don't see ourselves as oppressed, fundamentally because we view ourselves as their equals. That's the issue. Explain why that was like the aha moment for you.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack there. So keep in mind, my background is I'm from Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi. Mississippi is not political at all. You can call it a Republican state, but what that really means is politics is not as important. Maybe that has a lot to do with Chicago is a big city and Jackson, Mississippi is not. So you don't have a lot of people marching around talking about, certain things or rights or whatever. When I came to Chicago, and I came to Chicago to go to Columbia College, and I was 28 at the time. And usually, when you go to college, you're in your early 20s, right? I entered a big city. The majority of kids were white liberal kids. And in a lot of my humanities classes, there are interesting conversations that I've never had before. And it was weird because they were trying to convince me that I was oppressed. And this is rhetoric that I've never heard before. I mean, the majority of people in Jackson, Mississippi are black anyway. So that's not a conversation that pops up. And what I realize is that coming from a place where it's all black and you don't really, now there's a lot of situations where, someone maybe accused, like there are still white people in Jackson. And there's a lot of situations where, oh, that person may be racist or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no oppression talk. And when I came in contact with my fellow classmates, most of which were white liberals, the issue was that they tried to convince me that my life is bad or like I had it bad. And I'm like, no, I had a life just like you.
Yeah.
I did the same things that you did, except for I was in the black culture. And over time, it became apparent to me that, oh, they think that I'm uh, because of my race, and this is weird to say, but like maybe I'm a lesser person.
That's how you felt. So you
Yeah,
felt
like,
like
it's
like,
like,
so you're telling me I'm less capable, but
yes, yes. Like I don't understand. Like I have the same faculties as you, and I think the way not I think the way you do, but like I can come to my own conclusions. I can do the
right,
same things you do.
right,
And I guess they were just trying to pull that. And there is a dichotomy within Chicago where I think a large part of the black population does have this stigma to them, and I think that's what they were pulling from. But growing up in an all black city where nothing of that came up, it
right.
was kind of like, oh, I'm supposed to feel inferior to you. Like I
Wow.
didn't get that memo. That's
Yeah.
what it feels like.
Well, it's, I pulled this up and here's something else that you said. Let's see if I can grab it. You also said life is a head game, with the vast majority of our hopes, dreams, fears, aspirations, joy, and pain existing only between our two ears. Most people don't know this, and even those who do still don't know what to do with the information.
Yeah.
So that I find that fascinating because, well, let me ask you this. Do you think they're getting this message to kids? Do you think kids going to school today are getting this message that, life is a head game and a lot of all this pain, a lot of all that where you think you're feeling it's in here and not out there.
Look, Dad, we can talk about this for days and days.
You can just give a simple no or yes. You don't have to go on for days.
Oh
Just
my
like
God.
if it's
Well,
a
the vlog I wrote right after this one was basically how academia has failed us. And
uh,
actually, the answer to your question, the simple answer is no, but it's deeper than that. They're probably getting the opposite message
yeah,
as far as that. And even the school I went to, even though I don't feel like it held me back, that message is not a message that you're going to get in any public institution anywhere, because that's something that it's out there, but it's only reserved to those who search for those answers.
right.
So,
Now,
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. That brings me kind of to Paula. Before you came on, Paula
Mhm.
had said, "My granddaughters are mixed. So I worry about how they'll react to all this. Kindergarten and seventh grade, part of the family is pro BLM and the rest is conservative." And I had no clue what to say other than from a teacher's perspective. I said, I wouldn't bring that into the school. These poor kids are going to get that the second they walk out the school anyway. It's in the family. They're arguing. BLM's on the street. They're going to see it. Why are we cluttering up their school time and their learning time and making school yet another place full of controversy? What do you say to though from your perspective? You have relatives and friends and family that might be similar to, where they don't all agree, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a weird question to ask because I've had the discussions with my family back home, and I don't know if anyone has seen that Lil Wayne interview where he's like, I, I don't know BLM, I don't know them, and that has nothing to do with me. My family, and this is weird to say as well, but they don't really, BLM is not a part of their conversation. They see it and they don't. And like some people maybe, yeah, that's right. I believe in that, but it's not a part of their everyday life. It's not a part of the conversation. No one talks about BLM, at least in Jackson, Mississippi. As far as my family goes, they may support them, but it's not like I said, we're not. I don't think people in Jackson, Mississippi, are really that political.
Right.
So it's kind of weird. As far as Paula's situation, I think the only answer is you can't. These last few months since we've had our first conversation, I realized that I mean, it doesn't do any good to continuously try to fight back against these narratives. We have to build other things. If you want your kids to be educated, then you have to introduce them to things that you want them to learn. Because just trying to be anti this and anti that, anti Black Lives Matter, because at the core of it, if Black Lives Matter, they're going to disintegrate, because I mean their cause is getting exposed on an everyday basis. But that sentiment is still going to be there. There's still going to be the news media manipulating people, lying to people. They do it every day, and the only way that you can fight back is prepare your kids to think for themselves and consider alternative ways of seeing things. And because
I like that. Be for something.
yes,
No,
before something. That's
yeah.
really the only way to do it because the deeper cause of BLM, all the woke stuff that's going on, it's basically those people don't have anything to they don't have any principles to stand on, and so they invent the principles. They don't have anything that grounded them. I
Right.
think religion is a good placeholder for that, but I mean, a lot of people don't have a religion or they don't believe in God. That's fine, but you
Yeah.
need some kind of core thing to ground you when you come into contact with certain ideologies that don't make sense in the real world. If that
Right.
makes sense.
Right. And I think back, what feels to me though is like we've gone backwards. And we talked about this a little in our first interview because you remember the you remember the scene in, I don't know if you saw the movie Look Who's or Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Sidney Poitier and
No,
Spencer Tracy.
I
Okay.
kind of want to see it now.
I don't know if it will play. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna see if this will
Okay.
work. But let's see if this will work. So there, I I put it at the scene. Let me set it up for you. It's a movie about this man
Hmm.
is he went off and I think he's engaged to be married to a white girl. Okay,
Oh,
he's a doctor. Like he is super accomplished, like amazing doctor, travels the world. People look up to him and I mean he's incredibly brilliant. His father was a US postal worker who had a postal route whatever and helped him, get through school and all that. And they're at the home of the girl's parents. Meeting the parents is like, guess who's coming to dinner? And she's broken this news to her parents of like, this is my fiance. Now, this is in the 60s. Okay. And
okay.
so it's Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. And
Okay.
they're trying to be, and they're super liberal, like for the time period. And they're even talking about it during the film. They're like, well, this is what we've always stood for. And this is what we've always wanted is, for colorblind, whatever. And then, but here it is in our house. What are we going to do? And of course, they use the argument of we're worried about you and we're worried about your children and we're worried what they're going to face in this society and all that, right?
Hmm.
But they kind of come around, at least the mother does. Then these parents show up. And
Oh,
similarly, this father is like, hell no, no way, this is wrong. And who do you think you are? And putting on airs and I worked so hard and all this, and you owe me, you need to listen to me. And I don't know if the sound's going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot.
okay.
Because this is the key point that he says. Let's see. Can you hear it?
No, I can't hear
You
the.
can't. Is it too quiet or is you can't hear it at all?
I think it's too quiet.
Okay, hang on one second. I'm going to make it louder and try again. Go back. But this is so key. And I can't believe you've never seen this movie.
Oh, I hear a little bit more, but it's really quiet. Really
It's
quiet.
really quiet.
Yeah.
Okay. What he basically says is he says, let me tell you something.
Uh-huh.
I owe you nothing. I owe you nothing. It's like he tells about like I made my life and I, did all my stuff. And then he says, you know what the problem with you, Dad, is? The problem is you see yourself as a black man and I see myself as a man.
Oh, wow, that's deep.
It's like one of the most powerful scenes in film, in my opinion, as far as this kind of topic. And this movie was made in, oh God, I'm trying to think of what year it was, but we're talking the 60s. Okay.
Wow, that's profound.
So, and what's interesting is when I read your article, your latest one, and you said that about they see us as equals, I was like, Sidney Poitier. That's like the immediate thing that popped into my head. Okay. And I thought, like, you got to see that movie because that is his exact point. And here we are 50 some odd years later.
Uh-huh.
Shouldn't we be farther along? Shouldn't we be like looking at this and going, gosh, have we come a long way? This is amazing. It's so fantastic that people are, marrying whoever they want. And it's like, who cares? Like, you don't have to go now, mom, I need to tell you something. Dad, I need to tell you something. It's more like meet my fiance, like, person,
Yeah.
human being. And that's what I thought Martin Luther King, was about. That's what I thought all the marching was about. That's what I thought all the civil rights, activity was about. And I feel like now we've gone in this weird direction where we're getting people going, even within the Black community, like your politics are wrong.
Yes.
You're agreeing with someone of the wrong race of saying things I don't like. Like it's gotten down to this micromanaging of opinions and stuff. And I love what you said a couple minutes ago about they're going to do what they're going to do. They're
Yeah.
they're going to do what they're going to do, and we just have to be we have to be for something and teach our kids um something else. So, and then yeah, because Live by Faith here says it breaks my heart that a culture who looked up to great people like MLK have gone on to judge a person by the color of their skin and not the content of their character. And it's like I'm baffled. I feel like I'm like, did I go in a time machine and go backwards? What happened?
Well, I think what happened, there's a combination of things. My theory, and the first person to I've heard who who has articulated this outside of, I mean, there's a lot of people who've like pointed to this, but I heard a Tim Pool video like a couple of weeks ago, and he pointed out, I think, and this is something that I've been tweeting about and I've written about, and I think we're in the time of social media, and social media, even though like we're on social media right now, but the thing about it is algorithms, and I work in digital marketing, so I'm very familiar with how algorithms work. And what has happened is that, and this is only one part of the equation, like there's a lot of other stuff going on, but people with bad opinions have taken the reins, and people who don't think, people who are rewarded for emotional outbursts or being like emphatic or hyperbolic, they are rewarded, and the algorithms just keep pushing that stuff. And then you combine that with the failure of our education system, which is probably one of the greatest failures of human history. And no one is teaching kids about the stuff that's in my blog, like how to think for yourself, how to critically think, how to change your paradigm or the way you view your world, how to push back against limiting beliefs. No one is teaching. The only people who are interested in that stuff are the entrepreneurs, who paradoxically are the only successful ones who can get out of that. But when you get out of that, you get accused of being, I don't know, white or something like that.
Right.
So it's a very weird dynamic that we're in today.
Right. And I think I heard not too long ago that a lot of the kids that homeschool kids or like entrepreneurs have like a disproportionate number of the who were homeschooled, and then also some of the kids who act out a lot in school,
Yeah,
where they're just like, this is not, whatever. And that a lot of them, if they're stay out of trouble, basically, like real trouble, but they're just kind of not playing the game, they often go on to become entrepreneurs.
yeah,
So, obviously you can go the negative way, but if it goes the good way, it's they channel that, and we certainly want to, support that. But I think what would what do you say, or what do you think? And I know you're on the outside, or you're not like a teacher per se, but you obviously have a strong opinion about the failure of education.
mhm.
What do you think is the key way that it has failed? You mentioned it doesn't teach the critical thinking, so forth and so on, but um, like, what are they doing wrong today? Like, just on a daily basis, that you think, it could be improved if they did this, if they threw this out or did this differently?
Wow, that's a huge question.
It's too big.
It's different from, college is different from like grade school. I would say the largest thing that they have missed or failed in is teaching kids. I want to say this sounds broad and it sounds kind of, I don't know, cliche, but they haven't, they miss teaching kids how to think for themselves. They missed teaching kids. So the big thing, and this is going to go, I feel like I'm going to go on a tangent, and this is in my latest blog as well about how academia has failed. So a good example is my career right now. I'm a digital marketer. I know a lot of people. I work with people that are under me, and these are like people who've just graduated from college, and they get into they get into this workplace, and they think that they're going to get in and just like kill it. Like they have this idea that they're going to get into the workplace and show everyone how smart they are. That comes from the education system teaching kids what the right answers are, instead of teaching them how to get to the right answer or how to solve a problem. They don't teach how to solve problems. They teach people how to memorize stuff. As a matter of fact, I think there's a predominant worldview that if you memorize a lot of things, then you're smart. And that entrepreneurs think the exact opposite. And that is a problem, because if you memorize, the way technology is changing, you can't memorize everything. You have to know how to react to new technology. That's why the entrepreneurs succeed. And man, I don't know, you graduate from college and you can't find a job. And when you do find a job, you're a bean counter, or you're something that has to do with the government, or you go back to school. that it's created this paradigm where people who graduated from school, they only know what they've been taught, and then if they go to a company that requires them to learn something else, then they're
Right.
kind of flabbergasted because it's like, why do I have to learn more? I thought I did my learning in college. No, they're not teaching people how to learn. You
Right.
don't go to school to just memorize stuff, because these teachers who are teaching people aren't there. They went to college to learn how to teach. They didn't go
Right.
to college for science, to be
Right.
scientists or anything like that. They went to college to learn how to teach. And
Right.
they don't know what's going on in the world. They
Right.
just know how to teach. And
Yeah.
these kids are graduating and going to college and graduating out of college thinking that, hey, I'm a whiz. And like I said, my personal experience is that they are thrown aback because they have to relearn, they have to learn this whole other thing that they never touched in college. And a lot of people aren't prepared for that, because college is just now teaching digital marketing. But now cryptocurrency and the blockchain, all of that stuff is becoming a thing now. And it's going to be another 20 years before the education system catches up, is because they teach memorization. They don't teach people how to solve problems. They don't teach kids how to think in unknown circumstances or learn, or they don't teach that life is a continuous journey of learning. It's continuous learning. That's
And
all.
it's okay to be wrong.
It's okay to
Like,
be long.
you don't have
Exactly.
to be certain about things, and
Exactly.
curiosity is like, if somebody asked me, somebody sent me or posted in my locals community about some guy saying what makes a teacher great, and it was like, I didn't agree with the guy anyway. But I thought about the question overnight, and I said, I think I know my answer would be is curiosity.
Yes.
So, in other words, that you're not only curious about your kids, what they're thinking, and and but also curious about the world, and just you're constantly conveying to the students that you have a perpetual curiosity about life in the world, about yourself, about them, about everything, that you're not done. Like, I think when you decide you're done, and that, I know it all, I'm not curious about anything else new or whatever, that that's just the death of learning.
Yeah.
And it's also the death of integrity, because you're never going to learn it all. You're going to be wrong. You can't possibly be certain about everything. And so if you cut off curiosity, you're going to have to start like lying. Like, at some point you're gonna have to start like pretending you know
Yes.
stuff you don't know,
Yes.
right?
You
And
nailed it. You
I
nailed
want
it.
to go back to your article because there's a couple other awesome parts of this. Okay. You said there are very few boundaries upon what one can accomplish. It starts with our beliefs, paradigms, and thoughts. Therefore, if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. Everything starts with deep personal awareness, acceptance, and responsibility. I can tell you as an educator, they're not doing this.
No.
And
No.
then, yeah, you said the vast majority of us, no matter the race, another important point, are unaware of this. So, circling back to our question, no, I didn't embrace whiteness. And I doubt a lot of conservatives have embraced whiteness. What they have embraced is the American idea of individualism, positive change, and progress, multiculturalism, and racial non essentialism. And then I love the quote that you put, the David Brooks quote. He said, almost every successful person begins with two beliefs:
Hmm.
the future can be better than the present, and I have the power to make it so.
Yes.
And wouldn't that be so awesome to have in a school? Like, if you walked into a school and then that's what's up there, not Angela Davis quotes, not Karl Marx, but like that.
Well, another way the education system is failed us is because it doesn't inspire anyone. I didn't have a bad educational experience, but they didn't inspire me to be great. They didn't
Right.
inspire me to like discover something new. Because the teachers weren't. I think a lot of times the teachers just aren't that person themselves. And if you're in the business of teaching, then this is going to sound awful, but I don't think that you get into it. There are teachers who, aspire to be the best teacher and aspire to change, like affect change in their communities, but that they're a minority, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
there's no aspirations.
Yeah. It's true. It's so true. But how do you, like, we talked about this in our last conversation, and you told me you read a lot of books, but is there anything else to which you attribute your mindset? Like your just general, that you think these things, that you think this way. You just mentioned that, school wasn't that inspiring, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Like, what would you say were the big contributing factors to you becoming you, thinking these ways?
It's this is going to be an unexpected answer. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
I think a large portion of it was there was. I think one third of it was just my personality. I think that some people were just inherently competitive and want to do great and want to do things, and they think a certain way. They're always curious. You can tell that like young children who are don't sit down, they're always into something. My mom said that I never, when we would go out, I would always break from the group and go off and do my own thing. Unfortunately, that's the unfortunate part about it. That's something you can't teach. The other part about it was, I think, rap music.
That is an unexpected answer. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Unexpected is, but then again, it really depends who you're listening to, doesn't it?
Well, as a kid, I saw rappers. I was like, I want to be awesome. I want to be that guy. How do I be that guy? And then the wheels started turning. I was like, how do I make a lot of money? How do I get a Lexus and all of these other things? Like, what do I do to be awesome and to be the best and all of that? And yeah, that was rap.
But that's fascinating though, honestly, because you obviously know that a lot of kids go the other direction.
Yeah, yes.
So, because they'll, I mean, Tom McDonald has the Blame the Rappers, video. And then also, who was I listening to the other day? It was recommended by one of my subscribers. They told me to go watch a video by a rapper. What is his name? I know I'm not going to remember it. It was like ill. He says, this is from the ill mind of something. Oh, dang. I'm going to have to find it. But it was made in 2013, this song.
Oh,
And
that's recent. I thought he was going to say something much older than that.
no, no, no. It was made in 2013. And I watched this and I was like, whoa, he just takes them to task. Like, he's talking about the rappers themselves, the guys wanting to be them, the girl. Yeah, it says Hobson, Ill Mind of Hobson. Ill Mind of Hobson 5, whatever. And this guy just like goes off, and it's brilliant poetry. I mean, his bars are fantastic, but I watched it and I said, I'm surprised this guy's still alive. Like the things that he was saying. But because there are some people who would hear rap music and be like, how do I be like them? And they would just try to emulate the mannerisms, behaviors, attitudes towards women, attitude. But you took it a different way. You're like, how do I, Quincy, with my brain and my talents and my intellect and what I got going on, get rich? Not how do I become a rap star and how I act, like mime or like whatever it is, mimic a rap star, but how do I become successful, which is a completely different thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, and all of my like Lil Wayne is a big one. Like Lil Wayne, Nas, even like growing up, Mobb Deep, like their music is extremely violent, but but at the same time, it's like they had this mentality. Like every rapper can rap about like shooting things or shooting people or I don't know, doing drugs, all of that. But they had a mentality that was like, here's what I want to do, and I'm gonna go through this thought process of how I'm gonna do it, and I'm going to be successful.
Right.
And there was something about that, and maybe it's just me. I think I'm in the minority there, but like I didn't when they rap, I was like, I didn't look at like, oh, they're doing drugs and all of that. I just looked at here's how they view themselves. There was no like oppression talk. There was no like um the white man this or or there was none of that. It's like I'm going to be successful. I got that. I don't know how I managed to get that message, and other people don't, but I got that message. I
Well,
was like, oh,
you said though, you said your personality is what it is, which
yeah.
is, but it's an important point because a lot of people forget that there's an echo now. Oh, the people to a degree are who they are.
Hmm.
And so I think in education, there's too much of a focus on trying to like perfect people from
Uh-huh.
the outside in and not enough on let's draw out
Yes,
who's
yes.
already there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? And it sounds to me like you were like, "Okay, what I got to work with here?" Like, "Oh, now
Yeah.
I'm gonna, like, make the best of it." And my friend Philip says, "Thank you for the super chat." He says, "Be honest now, are you making money like you wanted?"
Oh
Because
no, I'm
because of
definitely nowhere near. No, absolutely not. That's a hard no.
yeah, but you still, you pursued what you wanted to pursue, you're self-made, you're doing the things that you wanna do, and it's no one's holding you back, right? Like, no, you don't have the perception that anybody is arbitrarily going, "I'm sorry, not you." You know?
Yeah, well, it's funny because when you set yourself on a path and then you're on this journey, you realize, oh my God, the journey is more fun than the outcome. Like you can reach these goals. I've accomplished a lot of goals and milestones in life, but it's like when you get there, it's like, oh man, the journey was more funner than this is, or more fun than this is. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just a growth process. So I mean, I'm very happy with like where I am, and I want to go further. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And but I think the main message that I'm getting is like, you know, we are who we are. There's like a nurture and nature component that we really need to accept. And like you said, there are people can listen to rap music and then grow up and be Quincy, and there are people who listen to rap music and not, so
You know what? I would also add that kind of goes back to the we see ourselves as equal things because when I looked at rappers, I didn't want to like. I kind of wanted to. I developed the mentality that they are my equals. I can be them. Why most people just want to look up to them. Like if I saw one of my favorite rappers right now, it wouldn't be like I wouldn't get. I don't. I would. There would be some kind of starstruckness about it, but it would be more like um, either I want to be like you, or I want to get where you are. But it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be that I see him or her as this person up here, and I'm down here. And I think people do that to themselves with anything. And I think that's a lot what a lot of people in the black community do with like white people. They're like, they're up here and I'm down here, and this is just what it is. Even you can put that dynamic in any situation. Like people who are like want mask mandates and vaccine mandates and all of that. They think that the government is out here like smarter than them or doing or know something that they don't know. So I'll just trust them. No, you're a person just like them. You have the same
right,
capacity as they do.
right.
That's the mentality.
Yeah, I think that like when I read your piece, I thought that like I said, first I saw the movie, which you have to watch, and the next thing I thought of was this doesn't get said often enough. Like I was so glad you wrote this because you know people that is just such a simple thing that we're equal. We kind of literally are equal, right? In the sense that we we're human, we're all human, we're born, and even if you're born like you're born in a rich family or a poor family, whatever, we're still essentially going to have to make of this life what we make of it.
Hmm.
It's only like the tiniest percentage of people that go like, here's your giant inheritance in your trust fund. And you're like, and even I've met kids. I had a roommate who had a trust fund and she got hooked on crack and it was gone in a year, literally gone in a year. And she was penniless. So, and, had a wealthy family and everything like that. Now that's an anecdotal story, but it's just to illustrate that at the end, of it, we're all just good. We have good choices we can make, bad choices we can make. And, you could start on top and end at the bottom. So it's we are in that sense equal. And at the same time, we're not equal in what our talents are, our interests, and all of that stuff. And that's okay. Like we have to respect that too. And rather
Mhm.
than being looking around for somebody else to blame for what we are not, or what
Mhm.
we did, what advantages we didn't have when we were born or whatever, we kind of have to just kind of get busy and like
Yeah.
get busy with, working with what you've got to work with,
Yes.
because
Yes.
you can still make a whole lot of yourself, right? And so I just thought it was such a great positive message that you wrote in this piece. And I like I said, I have the link in the description box and all that. But I wish I had like a ton of time to talk to you, but I have to pick up my daughter at like 10:15. So I just want to start like moving in the direction
Mhm.
of this. Now, you mentioned about marketing. You're in marketing, and
Mhm.
we've seen that marketing has picked up on these narratives as well.
Yes.
So we've got Coca-Cola. Somebody asked earlier in the comments, what do you think about the be less white thing that they did with their employee training? Now they took it down, but there have been other big brands,
Mhm.
really big brands that I've noticed on Twitter. You probably see it, some of their ads where they've replaced all the faces in their ads with there's no white faces anymore. They're like all black faces, or they have, in the commercials. I almost never watch commercial TV, but I don't know, it was a few weeks ago I watched something commercial and I'm like, what? Like it's not, I don't know, I can't explain it, but it's very obvious there's been a shift in marketing,
Mhm.
not just in terms of the faces that you see. And I'm certainly not complaining, it's just making an observation. And there's a shift in tone and attitude too. So I used to joke that they always made like the dad in the commercials the dummy, and like
Yeah.
mom was really smart. And now they kind of flipped it to where like the black friend in the commercials, the smart one, and doing
I
whatever. And
noticed that too.
have you
I'm
noticed that too?
very
And
hyper
the
aware
white
of
friend
that.
is
Yes.
like the
Yeah.
dummy. And it's subtle. And like I said, I don't care. It's a commercial. All right. So I'm definitely not the type of person who goes, oh my goodness, this is terrible. But as a marketer, because my big question is this really selling? Like, are there people sitting at home going, oh, well, now I'm going to buy your product? Uh huh. Like, is that, do you think that's effective marketing campaign?
Actually, I do because
Interesting.
I think. Well, I mean, that's a very pointed question. Do I think it's effective? Yes, because the majority of people that are buying it are your. I would say the majority of consumers, the biggest consumer block is white liberal women, and that sells to them. That sells. So yes, they are effective. Um,
Wow.
because
I
that's
guess
just
that just goes to show I am so not one of them. Like,
that is the cultural. That's kind of they're just catering towards the culture, and unfortunately, that is what it is. That's what they want to see, and it's not that I don't. I'm kind of agnostic to it because it's just a thing to me. But yeah, I would say that if I don't see anything wrong per se, but I do notice it and I do see it every day. Like I'm hyper aware of it. So
interesting. Yeah, because
it's
I
weird.
like I said, I don't really watch a lot of commercial
Mhm.
television. I don't read magazines, so I'm probably consuming fewer advertisements than
Mhm.
their typical audience. I see them more on social media. That's where I notice it a lot. And but I do find it interesting because I'm like, well, I know you know who I am because I know how the algorithms work. And so I know as
Mhm.
much as there is to know about my eyeballs and what body they're contained in as I'm looking at your ad. And so I found it fascinating. I'm like, why do you think this is going to sell me more than the ad you had last year or whatever? And because clearly they do, or they wouldn't have changed it. And then you help me understand. They think because I'm white and female, that this will resonate with me but like they're forgetting the rest of my content, and I'm posting that. No, that
Yeah,
doesn't really work.
yeah, it's a kind of a complicated thing because corporations will do whatever it is to capitalize on their bottom line. That's why you've seen a lot of corporations like embrace this woke stuff because I mean it's hot right now. It's trendy. Like it's trendy to be woke right now. Trend being woke is not more. I don't think it's not going to change anything. It's actually a negative thing for our culture, I believe, but it is what it is. It's something that a lot of people, a lot of young people, younger people
Yeah.
are pursuing.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Now, somebody's asking me, I know nothing about this, but maybe you do. What does he think of Target's black-owned sunscreen commercial? I'm totally confused by it. I don't even know what it is.
I've never heard of this. I've
Okay.
never known not one black person wear sunscreen ever in my life. So, I,
That's interesting.
like, not one black person
Well,
has.
maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's black-owned sunscreen that I'm supposed to buy. I don't know. Because I mean, if I set foot outside without sunscreen, I'm basically a raisin. So, like this. And
Black owned sunscreen?
yeah, I mean,
Like the people who own the company are black?
I'm guessing. I'm guessing that
That
would.
is, I have to Google that when I get
I
off.
know, but
That
so I mean, that was just
is,
kind of as a marketer, I think you have an interesting perspective because you're seeing what's going on, and and why they're doing it as a marketer, but you're also seeing it as a black man, and
mhm.
kind of like going like, "Oh, I see what you're doing there. All right, uh-huh," like it's got to be so. All right. I was told today, Deb, you don't know how to end your interviews. I don't. I suck at this. Okay. I could talk to you like all day, and I really wish I had more time. This is the one big flaw of Wednesdays. We've got about like 5 more minutes.
Okay.
So when you, so you say it's a fad, you think
Hmm.
it's fads die out
Hmm.
of their own accord, it seems.
Yeah.
So you see that happening as well with this.
Well, it's very complicated. Like being quote unquote woke is a very specific thing. In my view, in the way I see it, and I think yes, that will die out. Now, there's a lot of political stuff that won't die out, um, like leftism is not going to die out. They're just going to find something else to be leftist about. But yes, this woke stuff, it's gonna die out. Like
You think
there's
it's just reaching like peak clown world after
yeah,
like
yes, yes,
I think
and
what was I saw? I think I saw the other day somebody put on on Twitter. It was something about white people like to own dogs because
oh, I saw that too.
it reminds them of slavery. And they miss owning like genetically, I guess, like miss owning slaves.
Oh my god, yes,
So
I saw that.
I kind of like, so should I own like like a rabid dog so it can chase me so I can relive the running from the Cossacks my ancestors ran from in Russia during the pogroms?
Oh
Like,
my
I
god.
should I like miss that too? I mean, this is so weird.
Well, so like 20, 30 years ago, if someone was to say something like that, they'll be laughed out of the room. The only reason why that's a thing now is because of social media. Is giving a platform to people with bad, shitty ideas. Like, and that's just a bad idea. And it's getting the algorithms reward you for
Yeah.
being, hyperbolic, saying something weird off the cuff that people are like, even if they get ratioed, it's still like prominent. You still have, gotten a lot of eyeballs on your stuff.
It's probably not even real. Like half the time I look at these things when people say stuff that's really out there, and I think this has got to be like a 4chan troll. Like, for the longest time, I thought the entire I thought to myself, CRT itself, 4chan could not have thought up a better way to troll America. Like, I mean, if you think about it, there's something so perfectly ridiculous about it. And the only thing is, obviously, I know where it really comes from, but it's so inside out and backwards that it sounds like the kind of thing that, people would do if they wanted to just tweak you and then
Yeah.
go, haha, just kidding. You fell for it.
The unfortunately, yeah, CRT. Like I seen it in college. Like I said, I was a 28-year-old going to, freshman year in college. not freshmen, but something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm with like 20-year-olds, and like I saw the wokeness, and it's just it was I don't know, shocked is not the word, but thrown aback is more of the word. Like,
Yeah.
how does this even make sense in a logical world?
Right. Exactly. So if okay, this will be my last question, I guess. If you have kids someday,
Hmm.
what how do you think you'll educate them? How do you think you would want them to be educated? Knowing what all the things you know and kind of in the world we're in and all that kind of stuff.
Man, that's a deep question. So first of all, I'm in the process of looking for a place. I'm moving back down south. I am going to go to the reddest state that I can go to.
So you're leaving Chicago. You're like,
Oh
goodbye,
yeah,
Beetlejuice. I'm out.
I was done with Chicago like 10 years ago. I think I've been here 12 years or something like that. Like, yes, I there's no way that Chicago is not for me in any way, shape, fashion, or form. And then if teachers seems to be cut from the same mold nowadays in the public school system, but I think that I really am going to try my hand at homeschooling because that's really I think that I'm at the my whole life I watch a million and one documentaries. I'm always reading stuff. Like, I'm into knowledge. I know a lot of people aren't into that, aren't into learning. They don't want to teach or learn. They just want to do whatever it is people do in life. But I think that's something that I find a lot of satisfaction in. So I think I will enjoy teaching my children.
Right.
So homeschooling is definitely something that's
We
like
need to we need
top.
to start like our own little Atlantis or something because Philip's like he goes, can I move in next to you? I'm already I'm sitting there like, okay, you got to let me know where this place is that you find that you're going to move to. That's
Oh
gonna
yes,
because dude, I have got to get out of North Carolina. This place is.
Oh, you're in North Carolina. Is it near
Mhm.
Charlotte or
I'm in Charlotte.
oh in Charlotte?
And yeah, but I mean, I'm like on the farthest north edge of Charlotte before I can get to like the next town up because I'm just trying to live close enough to where my kid's dad, because we have to do like the back and forth sometimes. And but I truly hate it here because
Yeah,
yeah. It's got a long history of corrupt government, and I'm kind of both sides, really. It's not one party or the other,
yeah,
but our current governor is just the worst of the worst. He's horrible, and I don't. He never met a mandate he didn't like. We don't, by some miracle of, I guess we have a Republican legislature, so we don't have like a vaccine mandate or anything like that. But their mask mandates all over the place. They want to sue one of the school districts because they reopened all the schools and they're not following their mask guideline or their testing guidelines. They're like, we don't have staff to do this, but so it's not a great place right now. And South Carolina is better because of taxes lower, and the governor there is like, over my dead body, or am I making people get vaccines, like that
yeah.
kind of thing. He said he'd fight it to the gates of hell, were his exact words.
Wow.
So yeah, he was having none of it. But governors change, things change. I'm just saying the character of the two states, for better, worse, or indifferent, South Carolina has always been historically the one to go, oh, you're telling us to do what? Now, I obviously didn't agree with that last time, but now they still have that spirit a little bit. Um, but I don't know. I'm looking at like maybe Kentucky.
Kentucky? Oh, I love Kentucky.
Yeah, because I gotta figure any people that would elect Tom Massey, especially from his district. I'm like, where can I live in his district? Even once he's gone, like the people who elected him seem like pretty cool people. They've got to be, because he's awesome. So like I'm kind and Rand Paul. So like if this is the state that produced the only two lawmakers I can like tolerate at this point, I'm kind of like, maybe I need to live there. But that's kind of, like just where my thinking is at this point. Do you have any, or you want to go back to Mississippi, or what are your thoughts?
Mississippi, looking at Tennessee. Tennessee is high up on the
A
ladder.
lot of people going there. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Texas, all of my favorite, I don't know, popular people: Peter Attea, Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan. They all moved to Austin, even though people keep saying, "Oh, Austin is crowded now." I'm like, I don't know. I'll check it out for myself and make that
It's
determination.
a fun city. If you like live music, you know, Sixth Street is great. But it is kind of crunchy. Like it has its like super liberal side too.
Yeah.
But it's like so many great cities have that element because you got the artists and the music and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. And that's just going to happen. But it is the seat of government, so you know that balances it out, I guess. But they do, you know, Texas has its issues at the moment, but that crazy law they passed is a little bit nutty. Um,
Yeah, it is. That's it.
it,
That was
that
definitely weird.
that's a whole other video. But I think, but when you whatever you decide, you've got to let us know because we're all going to be looking for property like in your neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
But
Well,
you know, because you know why I'm not joking. Like we have to get back to community. We have to get back to you talk about before something or, you know, they're going to do what they're going to do. Okay, we need to go back to the old-fashioned way of finding people, not to make an echo chamber. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just build your local community
hmm,
and you know, realize that all of your best solutions, and especially for your kids, like if you're talking about education and them learning real life lessons and all that, like you said when you were growing up in Jackson, a lot of the real life lessons you learned were like from your community. You just like you were in a diverse community with different kinds of people with different kinds of ideas, but everybody got you know, like it was like they
yeah,
agree to disagree, and that's cool.
yes,
And you think this, and I think that, and that comes, I think, not from living around people who all agree with you, but living around people who agree with you about the one fundamental thing that you have a right to be you, and I have a right to be
yes,
me,
yes.
and it really doesn't matter like what we look like or anything beyond that. That's fundamental.
That's fundamental. Like that's a key. Like let people live their lives without all of this coercion or trying to fit in a group
Yeah.
or that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of a big city thing where like you have to conform. And even when I came to Chicago, like I didn't know about like how people talked and this sly remarks that they would say about me like in front of my face. Like it would be some what do you call it, passive
The
aggressive
microaggressions.
oh, yes, stuff like
Yes.
that.
So what you need is one of these. You can find them.
Ah, that's a good one. That was a good one.
They're
Uh,
micro. This might not be good enough. You might need an electro microaggression detector. You know, I see the subatomic particle versions of
yes,
aggressions.
yes.
I don't mean to make light of it, but you know, somebody put something in the comment here, and I'm gonna ask you. I know we said we're gonna end, but I did see this, and I think it's because it's come up so much. I want to get your take because you're in marketing, and I
Uh-huh.
think the answer is in marketing, but I want to see what you say. How many black and brown people are missing, yet we got to focus on one Gabby Petito? And
I
you
don't
say, do you know who she is? She's that little white
know.
girl who went missing. She went missing out in the
Oh,
Tetons.
oh, yes, I heard about her. How many black?
Okay.
I don't. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about that. They were all a bunch of rich people, weren't they? Like everyone involved in that situation was like,
Pretty well off, I would say. And I think part of it, like my take was if it was gonna sell to cover those stories, they would have. I don't know, like people could have made those stories. People could cover those people. That like if you talk about Joy Reid, for example, who's been complaining about it. What's stopping you, Joy? Like,
is
what is stopping you? You've got your own show. Would you like to do an entire show about all the people who are missing? Knock yourself out. It's not us in the viewing audience who go, don't you dare do that show. It's like you made a business decision, a marketing decision
yes,
that for whatever reason you thought this was going to get more clicks and more interest and whatever. Okay, there was like a mystery component about it. I mean, whatever. So it was pretty unusual as stories go. So I'm thinking there's the like novelty, like it's unusual. Also, she was like a vlogger. So I
yes,
think there were like 6 or 7 different components way before her whiteness. But I would come back to it's like all the other stories. Why didn't Tony Timpa's story? And he was white, right? Why didn't his story make the front pages? Because it wasn't going to sell. It's like
yes,
in the end, news is a business and they suck, and that's what they do. They cover what is, I mean, I'm not defending it. Don't hear me like saying this is good or whatever. I'm just trying to, that's my explanation. I was just curious, you as a marketer,
Oh yeah,
what you
that's
thought.
definitely it. Like that story had like I haven't watched one news segment about it, but it pops up on my like YouTube all
Sure.
the time to
All
click
there.
on these links and whatever. But and I heard someone talking about it, and I got the gist. Oh, a podcast. I was listening to a sports podcast, and they brought it up. I'm like, who are these people? But if you look into it, yeah, they're like it has all the components of like a murder mystery novel. It has
Yeah.
all of that stuff in it. So of course,
Narratives.
yeah, the narrative is it writes for itself. Like of course, like if I walk outside right now and someone kidnaps me, no one is going to give two shits
Right.
about me. Like I don't fit the narrative. So
Well, and this brings us full circle. And okay, Phil, see, I don't know how to end stuff, but I'm trying.
okay, okay.
Okay, so you said why this black man doesn't buy into oppression narratives, and we could just as easily ask, why aren't we talking about the Quincy Binghams of the world? Why aren't we covering all the great success stories of, the Quincy's? Why instead are we covering, the other stuff that is, that because the narrative is what we sell now. We
Yeah,
sell narratives. The
narratives.
narrative appeals for some reason. It sells, it gets clicks, it gets likes, it gets ad buys, it gets what it gets. So if you don't like the narratives that are predominating in our society, don't buy them.
Yes.
Don't buy them. I mean, either literally or even like in your mind, no, cognitively, and don't live them out.
Yeah.
Don't live them out, and do what Quincy says. Find something to be positive about. People going to do what people are going to do. People are going to have bad ideas. People are going to try to push them on your kids. If you don't want that, don't go there. Like do something else, or give your kids a different narrative, like he said, that one phrase, and that is going to be a better message, right?
That's correct.
All
That
right.
is correct.
You're awesome. Thank you
No,
so much for coming again on
thank
my
you for
show.
inviting me. Like
I
this is
know.
wonderful. Like thank you so
You
much.
No, I so enjoy this, and like I said, I wish we had longer, but he's gonna come back, right? You'll come back again?
Yeah,
Because now
most
you get to go
definitely.
write another
Absolutely.
article. People I've seen in the comments that like they're sharing the heck out of your piece, so that's
Oh,
great.
thank
Follow
you.
Quincy. If go to the blog or go to the Medium page and follow his stuff, and so you can get other blog articles. Follow him on Twitter. Now your Twitter handle's a little interesting, so I don't know how we. What,
It's Quincy LSV, but the title is like Cutopolis. I'm trying to hide. That's my way of hiding.
oh, never mind. Sorry, you're gonna have to go look for him. I
No,
can't help you there.
it's so the handle is Quincy LSV. So that's
Okay.
simple.
Okay, there you go. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you so much, Quincy, and thanks for bearing with us with the delayed start. So if you're watching on the replay, thanks for sticking with us. All right, everybody. Good night.
All right. And I
Bye.